Namaste Galactic family, welcome back to the channel IndigoAngel. Come on into this dimension, come on into this cosmic grid update, energy update globally. I have a lot to get into today, discussing all of the current events of what is happening over in Israel. So I'm so happy that you can join me today. This has been a follow-up to the Temple Mount remote view that I had just reposted from about a year and a half ago is when I did that remote view. And so I wanted to follow up and just give my current deep dive and take on what I feel is happening spiritually, energetically, what's going on over there. Now, in this update, I am not going to get into a lot of like the grimy details of, specifics of things. I'm going to kind of bring forward the grid worker perspective, the spiritual perspective, and the underlying things and components up underneath it, in which I feel is the basis for why these things are happening in the first place. So I just want to let you know that I am very sensitive and compassionate and hold a lot of empathy for what is going on all sides. I'm holding my own personal space very much in a place of neutrality and just observation in terms of what I think things are, again, on a deeper level, according to the grids and according to our history. That's going to kind of be my overall take on things. And I just want you guys to know that that's how I'm going to go about it, essentially. So I'm really happy that you can join me today. There really has been so much going on in the planetary collective field. I think we have been at a level 10, energetically speaking, in all directions. No matter where you are in the timeline, wherever, no matter where you are in the splitting and the bifurcation, we're at a level 10. And so I really think this is running through all the Atlantean pylon network systems, all of the Lemurian pylon network systems, the Four Faces of Man systems, all Aryan pylon network systems as well, running global encoding. So everything that is simultaneously overlapping in terms of control structures from those root races, those timeline light matrixy light fields that are interlapping one another to create reality in which we experience today. And so it's all of this is really began a powerful energy wave kicking off multiple sequences of current international events, I believe, rooted in deep Anunnaki bloodline god wars for territory, religious belief, Stargate rulership, and elitist and negative alien agendas, New World Order stuff. And so if you don't already know about the Anunnaki, which most everyone watching here pretty much does, but there might be some that are, just learning about these things for the first time. The Anunnaki were alien gods that came down to Earth to mine mineral resources. And because the work was so laborious, they mixed their DNA with Homo erectus so they could use them as a slave race to mine the gold. This is the story according to Sumerian text. This is the base belief for how we as humans came to be. Going back, let's say about 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. I personally know that this is not the entire truth. I think all of you know that this is not the entire truth. It's just one part of our history. And we know that human civilization has been going on since about at least 500,000, if not a billion years on this earth. But according to what's most relative or most recent in terms of this planetary ascension cycle and where we are in that greater planetary ascension timeline, it is believed that the prophets in which we come to understand in the three Abrahamic religions, beginning with Abraham, came with an Anunnaki gene code. Okay, so because Abraham himself was a priest of Enlil, And Enlil went on to develop a priestly group who created a more intelligent and sophisticated version of humans to guide and shepherd the humans and let them train and nurture humanity spiritually. These men essentially passed on their genetics through breeding to all of humanity, starting with, going back farther than Abraham, of course, maybe even Adam, the prophet Adam. But essentially, this is kind of where that trifurcation happened. Essentially, was beginning with Abraham and the sons of Abraham that passed down this Anunnaki genetic gene code. A lot of it in which was through forced breeder programs, something that I'm not going to touch on today, but it's very much an underlying catalyst and degradation to womankind that took place. But if you're interested in learning about forced breeder programs, I have several blogs that I have written about on my website at IndigoAngel222.com that you can go and read about forced breeder programs. So just be sure to sign up for my newsletters so you can, get all of the writing that I put out, because again, with everything that I do, and I've talked about this in other videos, I always put everything out in writing, and you'll get that in my newsletters monthly and sometimes bi-weekly. But we have to understand all three factions of the Abrahamic religions are extensions of the Anunnaki bloodlines and branches. Okay, and so what I feel we are seeing with the 2023 Hamas and Israel war, Palestinians, is underlying the brutality of these bloodline wars from the fall of Atlantis. Jehovah and Anunnaki bloodlines, Hebraic bloodlines, Judaism bloodlines, Zionism bloodlines, Anunnaki bloodlines versus Aquilan Anunnaki factions, which I have equated that more with the Islamic factions, because there's a lot of representation of Aquila and the Altair system when it comes to their Stargate points in the grid. So I'm gonna get into that more. But so it's much more than what meets the eye versus unresolved conflicts of territory and Holocaust wounds of current times. Okay, as we know, the warfare over there in Israel, Palestine, whatever you want to call it, it goes back really, really far, right? Like, this has been happening over and over again. And honestly, I think this is why I've put out Temple Mount remote views in the past and have done things, because there was flare-ups even then. And, prior, going back to contracts, covenants, negotiations, and intruder deals that took place back in the 1900s, the 1800s, the 1700s, this war has been going on for a long time. So because of that, there is obviously deeper Akashic truths that reveal themselves through what appears to be current world dramas. But I think this is ultimately a Stargate territory battlefield. And so it's really over access points into our Earth, in which the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Temple Mount is an Anunnaki Stargate point, in which we are seeing that these spiritual locations, I mean, they have been global indicators that of these underlying conflicts for so long, because the conflicts play out at the Stargate point. They play out at the temples. They play out at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So that's the point I'm trying to make with all of this, that we're going to get into more and kind of what's actually running in terms of encoding at these Stargates. And a lot of people have been wanting me to touch on the breakdown of Israel and Gaza and the Palestinians and give my insight and overview on it, my spiritual insight, according to the war tactics, according to just kind of breaking down a cosmic grid update. And I've been trying, you guys. I've been trying to put this video together. To be honest, it's been difficult because the grids there just seem to be extremely heightened. A lot of times when I do cosmic grid updates, I'm tuning into that energy. And so it's been very complicated with this situation because that grid over there is really concentrated. It's very dense with destructive frequency fences that are running there. And so as soon as I've tuned in, I've gotten zapped. I've gotten hit right at my core solar plexus. That really has made my whole body weak, down to my knees, up to my crown chakra. And so it's been slow in coming to put this information together. Let's just put it this way. I had to do a lot of clearing just from tuning in when I did around when things began. I think it was October 7th, and I tuned in around October 10th, and I just got, completely zapped. I got completely taken over by the persecution that's running there. So that has been a very deep emotional clearing that I've had to work through collectively just to kind of get this information to you guys. For those of you who don't know, frequency fences, this is what I'm getting zapped by. Essentially, these are the planetary modifications in weapon technology in which impale crucifixion and persecution, martyrdom, and Holocaust implants into the earth, into the 33rd parallel, and into the consciousness of the Abrahamic Templars. So monadic fields of Abrahamic Templars, in which it runs through as well. I didn't realize it was that extensive, but it actually is. Also affecting Anunnaki gene codes in the body as well. So if you hold Anunnaki gene codes and then you try to remote in, that's why it's impaling the persecution so deeply, is because it's playing off the gene code in your body as well. One thing that I've seen is that there are multiple spikes running through the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount, the Dome Rock, and also through the Abrahamic temples throughout Israel as well. A lot of conflict around Abrahamic temples specifically is where a lot of the conflict is now taking place. So you can just imagine how disorienting this is tuning into it. I scanned into just the matrix of Israel overall. I call it the Star Core Fire template of Israel. And immediately I was inundated and hit with, again, deep persecution for religious belief codes. I seen active soul rivers of hatred. I seen fire searing serpent swords. I seen gods at war with each other. Literally just, it was like visions of pockets of gods that were like very fat gods, kind of like the Buddhic gods, but as if they were these fat gods with, golden cufflets, golden bracelets within their fat creases, and they're all sitting on these thrones, absorbing the pain and persecution body of humanity, and that these gods that were sitting on their thrones were warring with each other. I seen reversals running in the universal tree of life in the Anunnaki Stargate, and I seen a broken down Stargate system that was there. I seen the spike matrix running. I heard blasted sound frequencies of disempowerment. And I seen spiritual mental body scrambling disruptor machines that wanted to consume life and light into it like a giant vortex, a giant reversal vortex, and turn everything into dead and frozen light, cold and unbearable light. Crucifixion and stigmata layers were very present. Holocaust encoding was running extremely powerfully through the field. And so, it was like a swelling pool of all core planetary soul wounding. So the severity of the frequency fences there was very overlapping and detrimental in Israel to attack the beings in which cross into its field. Any outsiders just trying to tune in, you're going to be attacked by these frequency fences. They're coming from all sides. So I just want to say, remote viewers, you definitely want to protect up. You want to be very careful, because the psychic attack from tuning in is very immediate. Just so you guys know, if you're working as a grid worker to help heal this site. Luckily, we worked on it a little bit yesterday in my group remote view. Thank you everyone who attended that and felt the call to come and work on that. I felt like we were more heightened in protection that we went in as a group. So that may be something you want to do, is go in pairs, go in groups, because it just creates a stronger seal within the container when you do the work. But because of all of that, I can't even imagine what this must feel like if you're on the actual ground there, no matter what side of the territory you stand on. It must be so intense on location that most there are probably very numb and suffering with extreme war and religious PTSD, being relentlessly divided and fragmented through the crown chakra. This is where it's actually tearing people apart, is at the crown. Now, don't get me wrong. I know the faith is very strong there within their conviction. But that's just a shield of strength for what's really playing out internally, where the crown collectively there is very fragmented and being torn in many, many pieces, which is very interesting, right? We think where most walls of separation and fragmentation and wounding takes place and occurs is at the root. But I've been seeing in Israel, and according to those Anunnaki factions and bloodlines, that it's actually taking place at the crown chakra. So what I want to do today is actually pull up my map, you guys, because that's the best way for me to explain what I'm seeing going on there. Boots on the ground, remote on the ground, we'll just put it this way. So I'm just going to zero out a little bit so you can see the totality of everything that I got charted here. You've seen this map before in previous videos. This is my Stargate map. So I'm just going to kind of tune in now down to the area in which I'm going to speak about. So this here is the Archangel Michael ley line, and this over here is Israel, which I'm going to tune in closer to those areas. But I've been asked multiple times if people can have access to this Stargate map. And the answer is yes. I have no problem letting people have access to it. I just give you like a version of it that you can't actually edit. You can just look at it. So if you are interested in getting a copy of this map, you just want to message in at info@indigoangel222.com. And I'd be happy to give this to you. I do have somewhat of a key over here in the corner that kind of gives you an idea of what everything is, but not everything has been keyed perfectly. But you can always look over here according to the layers as well. That will give you locations and everything as to what they are. So if you're going to look at this map, you're going to have to use the layers and also the key to fully decode what each thing is, essentially. But what I'm seeing is the negative controllers, according to the grids, according to the ley lines, they're actually utilizing this ley line here. This is the Archangel Michael ley line. So basically it starts over here in Ireland, works its way down through the UK, through France, down through Italy, the Vatican here. Also CERN. Okay, CERN is along here somewhere as well. And it comes down through Greece and then through this point here, and then runs down through the base of Lebanon, and then comes into Israel. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Let's see if I can just make it invisible so I don't actually have to delete it, but I think I'll go ahead and remove it just so we can see today. But this ley line goes from Skellig Islands, Ireland, touches through major points such as CERN and also the 5D reversal Stargate at the Vatican, continues to transmit down to Israel, where the Temple Mount is not too far south from Mount Carmel, in which I think they have utilized and polluted the Archangel Michael ley line and hijacked it at a much higher degree to tamper the blue ray spectrum, a ley line and global frequency in which we know has consistently been at the forefront of these global conflict dramas, where they're running scalar wave Armageddon pulse technology. And as we know, before a lot of these conflicts kicked off, we remember how much blue beam technology had ramped up. I think I put a couple videos out about the blue beam technology being amped up in the prior months to the current warfare events. So I think it may all have been precursing the total tampering of the planetary blue ray spectrum, and thus tampering the mental bodies of humankind to superior influence of divide and conquer mind control, and using the ley line to run antagonistic enemy patterning into the Stargate system there at the Temple Mount, then in turn would expand into the surrounding land grids and realities and people and reality bubbles and spheres. And so what I think they're transmitting and what I've seen is that God belief structures are dissolving collectively along the ley line in some places, and then increasing in pain and intensity in others according to the splitting of the timelines along this ley line and the bifurcation processes of the earth along this ley line. I also think they are targeting techniques according to the controllers, which again, I think is stemming from the planetary internal tesseract black cube and spike matrix system, in which they're drawing up the targeting abilities through those technologies. So this is really ramping up the trauma, religious-based fears recorded in the collective fields of humanity in the Anunnaki bloodline genetic God war codes, the grid cellular memory, and the Stargate locations holding enemy and antagonistic patterning in the earth. Okay, you may have recently seen Lisa Renee's newsletter, and she wrote about us clearing Enki overlays. Okay, collectively, she writes this in her most recent update, that this requires the shedding of lunar overlays that include the process of atomic transmutation of corrupted elements at the 1D base shield level, and the ongoing extraction of Enki DNA overlays and all related Enki skins used to falsify or clone identities for the use of the negative alien invaders and imposter spirits. Okay, so I can't help but feel like this is all deeply tying to wars of Anunnaki bloodlines in Israel and Gaza and Palestine. I think they can control these groups by their gene code and their DNA through the Armageddon pulses of the Archangel Michael ley line into armed and aggressive conflict wars. Okay, I know this sounds crazy, but I do feel that there are consciousness-based intelligent collective fields in the negative black tesseract cube that are specifically designed to target bloodline wars. And what they're doing is then through this victim-victimizer mind control programming clearly directed at Israel and Gaza through their Stargate access point to the Temple Mount, through the Archangel Michael ley line, related to this point in time where consciousness first experienced extreme death and trauma. All of this at those times reverberated throughout the entire universal time matrix and seated itself really along that 33rd parallel globally and influentially. Hence why we are all feeling this so deeply and globally. Okay, so really, this Mount Caramel in Israel and Jerusalem is very much sitting on the 33rd parallel. This 33rd parallel is running through about right here. Okay, so this is a trigger point on the 33rd parallel. And the wars and genocidal campaigns generated, and they are generating damage in the consciousness matrix that is the seeds of that antagonistic patterning, which has continued to reenact the same Holocaust histories on the earth through mind control. I've always believed that they are doing this through CERN. CERN plays an imperative role in the allowance of frequency fences and flying of the persecution spikes into temples and stargates. So just put this in perspective. Let me just chart CERN really quick so you can see how it sits on the ley line. Okay, so here's CERN. CERN's here. Okay, so this, they could very easily target this ley line and cause catastrophic implications of antagonistic patterning down to Israel. And so I think they're doing that. Antagonistic patterning that can be seen when certain areas of the earth have ancient landmarks, historical landmarks to massive wars that are clearly still visible with a lot of death, destruction, war and killing, such as the Temple Mount, such as the multiple locations running along the Archangel Michael ley line, with the basis of the spiritual contention being held in this Stargate. And I understand that this remote view I put out was not very sensitive to the current events. I just wanted to state to you guys that this was a remote view that I did almost about 2 years ago. So much has shifted and changed since this. And a lot of my perspective has changed since then as well. But overall, regardless of who is controlling the Temple Mount in terms of current groups, right, the specifics of the details of the drama, which I don't want to go into, I think it's all stemming from the geometries, the corruption within the geometries in the Stargate locations that the Temple Mount holds. This antagonistic geometry, it holds an antagonistic, energetic enemy patterning that is very activated. The Temple Mount, which is the Al-Aqsa Mosque, is the temple rebuild of the Temple of the King of Solomon, which is an Anunnaki spaceport underground temple and well of souls. So you may want to research a little bit about Solomon's temple. It has a very karmic, retributive, cyclical nature to it. It was considered the first house of sanctum and was a biblical temple in Jerusalem, believed to have existed between the 10th and 6th centuries BCE. Its description is largely based on narratives in the Hebrew Bible, in which it was commissioned by biblical King Solomon before being destroyed during the siege of Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar II of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Although no remains of the temple have ever been found, most modern scholars agree that the first temple existed on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, which now the Israelis are trying to dig up underneath it and excavate it. I don't know if it's to try to find the original temple. I don't know what it is, but it's a huge part in the piece, in which is consistently activating more of these enemy patterning technologies. There has been a consistent desire to want to destroy this temple, to destroy the beliefs at the basis of the enemy patterning, activating the Anunnaki bloodline wars. This Stargate here is being invaded with multiple mutations of alien mind control programming, while siphoning our life force off to other planets that serve negative alien agendas. The largest Stargate in the world that is dividing our human race over false gods. This Stargate has much karma to clear, you guys, and I think it should be a major focal point for all grid workers to clear the collective shared war body alien mind control programming over human and womankind at Dome Rock. What's interesting and something to take note of is this war between Israel, Gaza, and the Palestinians began under Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. This is what it was called. Code word Al-Aqsa Flood. That initiated the current 2023 war. Al-Aqsa Flood or deluge. And I think there's a lot to be said for this, okay, as to where we should be looking within this earth, within the Stargates and the man-made structures to clear the Armageddon pulses. Clearly, code word, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood was an initiation indicator point that this Stargate was activating to antagonistic enemy patterning. That the Temple Mount holds the world's most severe crucifixion and enemy patterning codes in accordance to Anunnaki bloodline wars and religious persecution. What I am seeing is that the crucifixion and coding runs deep through Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism, but does not fall under Islam. And which is really interesting, because when I tune into the Islamic energy or frequency, beliefs, all of this, it seems as if it's because Islam does not see Jesus as their king or main prophet. They do honor his presence, but they follow the Prophet Muhammad, who was not crucified. Therefore, they do not submit under the same crucifixion as the other factions, okay, or the DNA modifications as their Abrahamic followers of that religion. So this in itself may be, and I'm speaking about this from a place of neutrality, you guys, just observing, this may be at the root of the underlying contention between Judaism, Zionism, and Islam fundamentals. One has been crucified and the other has not undertaken this belief. Okay, so when I psychically scanned in here, I seen the spike matrix running. I actually seen a spike rod coming from the inner earth mechanical black tesseract cube of inner earth, impaling Israel with a black spike from inner earth. I think this spike matrix serves to hijack the planetary logos, the planetary brain, causing gravitational anomaly relationship to how the magnetic resonance mind control was being put into the planetary body in the core of the earth. So the natural magnetic field of the earth would carry these mind control carrier waves from the Stargate at the Temple Mount into the lower atmosphere and into the surface of the earth and into the people. Just another plane on the contention of God wars. Another thing that we've seen in our group remote session work yesterday, I highly recommend going back and watching this video posted yesterday, is the Vindicta rods are running through the Dome Rock and also the Abrahamic temples. And Vindicta rods are ceremonial staffs used for punishment and vengeance, treachery to the nobles, the justification rights of these mental and spiritual beliefs running through invader king lines. These Vindicta rods also can represent guerrilla warfare missions. So we really worked in that remote session to energetically and spiritually and holographically remove those implant blockages out of the temples. But I personally feel like it's probably going to require more spiritual work here to fully remove the impale of the Vindicta rods. Another thing I think they are utilizing as symbolism to highlight their agendas is also at the Vatican. Okay, so I'm going to go to this picture here. So this is really going to describe what we are up against right now, is the sphere within the sphere. This is a centerpiece of the courtyard at the Pine Cone at the Vatican. This one's not at the Vatican. Let me pull up another one. Okay, I actually seen this one while I was there at the Vatican. This is it. So this is actually at the Vatican. This is in the courtyard of the Pine Cone at the Vatican. It's a globe-like piece, each depicting a different map of destruction. Each tremendous ball is fractured, revealing an intricate interior that unveils yet another cracking orb. The design of the internal layers seem to be mimicking the gears of a clock or the inner workings of a mechanical gear system or beast machine, making it appear very complicated. As we know with this war with Hamas and Israel, is we know the depth of planetary modification weapon systems in the planet that are working against humanity to divide and conquer and to run antagonistic patterning into the grids. So we found out in our Gridwork remote session yesterday that these spheres are not just at the Vatican, right? This is the first place I was introduced to it, but ultimately they're in other places in Rome, they're in Dublin, they're in Tel Aviv, they are in Hakone Museum, United Nations headquarters in New York City, Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. They're in Washington, D.C. It's in Richmond, Virginia. It's in Columbus, Ohio. It's in Indianapolis. It's in Des Moines, Iowa. It's in San Francisco. It's in the University of California and Berkeley and Princeton University. This is the one at the Berkeley College. And so these are everywhere. These are everywhere. And oh my gosh, we did not realize that until yesterday. These statues and symbols enforce major persecution layers, energetic signatures running in the land, ley line, and stargates. They enforce the New World Order agenda. And they basically flat out telling you that, hey, there is a mechanical beast machine inside of the earth. pay attention, where it's in plain sight, literally all over the world in plain sight. I think they run these symbols in order to justly kill people, to justly create this mental belief that we have an enemy, okay? And that these enemies are a threat to us, and that these enemies are a threat to each other, and that our enemies must be eliminated. Okay, they transmit the heavy enemy antagonistic patterning, and they are not really hiding it. We just have to know where to look. The controllers are running the persecution program from the crucifixion implants and their beast machine statues and symbols and particle accelerators, so that the masses will automatically accept attacking and killing those perceived as threats as acceptable. The symbolism has been slowly introduced into the consciousness for some time. The majority of the human race is under a spell, under a constant stress of feeling persecuted and oppressed by someone or something, such as a beast machine inside of the earth, okay, in the environment, okay, that's keeping the masses in a fear-based thinking state of mind. This seed of unconscious trauma goes back to the point of our original invasions of this planet with Marduk, Maldek, with Thoth, with the Anunnaki, with the Dracos. That dark force invading the earth is the true causal source of why the majority of the human race feels to exist in a constant state of fear and a perceived threat, in which pins bloodlines against each other. There are areas on the earth that are littered with massive war histories involving mass death and killings that are based on persecution of certain ethnic groups, ethnic cleansing, colonization, genocide, eugenics, any classification group that they found convenient to scapegoat in order to gain more power and control over the population. This isn't about the wars of these groups. Okay, we're getting caught up in the hoopla of the conquer and divide. It's not about these groups, you guys. This is about an epicenter of massive psychic residue of persecution globally, complex, running in the grid network. Okay, and if you're a sensitive empath or intuitive, you're going to largely feel this persecution energy being extremely magnified right now. Hence why I was hit so hard when I tuned into this. I think the ongoing armed conflict between Palestinian militant groups led by Hamas and Israel, I think this will resolve when the spike matrix shifts inside the earth, when the Anunnaki God War gene code dissolves and we accept our Anunnaki inheritance and choose to heal and rehabilitate these gene codes. Okay, when we quit pitting the blame against each other and heal the original fracture of the patriarchy, okay, and the Aquilan factions. I've spoken about the Aquilan network a lot, and that's kind of a lot to bring in and go into, but you can always look up my older videos and where I've talked about the Aquilan warfare energy on this earth. So I think my advice on an individual level is that we must remain in the heart, the higher heart and the higher mind, and we must see beyond the veils of destruction and the splitting and fractured lower timelines that they're trying to run and play out through their propaganda. We must stay in the heart to see that this is a greater antagonistic ploy to destroy humanity. I also recommend and continue to recommend J-seal removals for individuals that are sitting on the sides of history that have imbued upon their souls and spirit bodies all of the crucifixion and stigmata and persecution, the suffering extensions that keep them tied to martyrdom and Holocaust codes. You must remove these seals. I'm not vouching for Islam, but Islam does believe that you are supposed to remove the seals. Okay, so maybe there's something there with that. If you would like a J-seal removal with me, I have recently had several new openings open up for November through November 7th through the 17th. So if you would like to book with me, I do have available slots and dates in which I can assist you with your J-seal removal. I do ultimately recommend, though, for everyone to remove all 3 implant and seal system sets, whether you're a man or a woman, doing J-seal removal, Draco seal removal, and also the feminine and masculine implant removal system. The crucifixion and persecution of what's come against us goes back very far into the Lemurian timeline. So we must work to that place to fully heal and restore what has come across our own consciousness, our own beliefs, our own light body fields, our own energy, our own spiritual body, our own soul body, and the burdens of our soul. We must relieve and remove these implants to restore it, to help correct humanity on a greater global scale. If you are someone who is a light worker or someone who speaks to the public or to the collective, you must have yourself fully free and clear of these distortions so that way you can bring forward a mindset that's not going to continue to initiate the conquer and divide, and also continue to initiate the antagonistic and enemy patterning within bloodlines, to get on board with healing the detriment of the Anunnaki gene code. And if you simply just need more knowledge and training and information on this, I do also offer my courses as well. Right now, I pretty much have a university going on at learn.indigoangel222.com, which I just recently highlighted the implant and seal removal certification course, which I give all of the extensive information with several videos, teachings, techniques, PDFs, study guides, visuals. Everything here on the side that I'm scrolling down are aspects to this course. I think there's over 47 classes and courses within each section of the teachings. All of the information is very in-depth, which would give you everything you need to know about what is impaling the earth body in terms of persecution, crucifixion, Holocaust, and martyrdom templating in the earth, and how this happens. We talk about frequency fences. We talk about significant timelines. We talk about what these holographic blockages are and what they look like. We talk about how to prepare the light body to remove them. So much within this. And I'm going to be giving a 30% off coupon for anyone who wants to take this course. It's still available through downloads and replays. That way you can integrate the information at your own pace, of course. But I highly recommend taking these studies and integrating this knowledge, because it's going to give you a much vast and greater worldly understanding of what we're truly up against on a spiritual and energetic level, that it's not about these bloodlines. It's not about Hamas. It's not about Israel. It's not about the Palestinians. It's ultimately about what's playing out underneath it all, energetically, holographically, and spiritually. So taking this course, I think, would really give you some deep insight into that. And again, of course, doing the session work and removal work yourself. So all of that can be booked at IndigoAngel222.com. And I hope that this deep dive gave you some more insight from my perspective as a grid worker and as a global grid energy reader. And yeah, guys, so that's my update for today. As I continue to gain more insight, I'll try to bring forth more updates. Again, doing cosmic grid updates on warfare that's current and active, again, sometimes can energetically be difficult, just because as an empath, I do take on so much that I have to clear. I mean, things like this really wipe me out for a couple of weeks. That's how powerful the persecution is that's running. Even though I've cleared my own persecution implants and stigmata in my own body, it still can be very dense with having to clear what it is collectively. But I think even just doing that on a personal level helps motivate the collective to heal on a greater soul shared level. So that's why I also feel a responsibility to it as well in some ways. But I hope this gave some deeper insight as to what's going on. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I'll be back with another update. Take care.